Namaste and welcome to Live, Love, Engage. Today, I am delighted to have a gentleman with us who is going to talk about fulfilling your dreams, even at an age when you might be thinking about retiring. And his name is Robert Miller. So, first off, welcome to Live, Love, Engage, Robert.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
I am delighted to have you here because this gentleman I met recently at an event where you got to meet with a whole bunch of different speakers who are looking for opportunities to get their message out. And I was really struck by his message because this gentleman, at an age when baby boomers like myself are retiring, he decided to go into music full time and did it in a big way. And I thought that rather than going into more about his bio, I would just start off by talking about or asking you really what prompted you to go into music, especially to become a musician in your 60s.
Well, I've been a musician really all my life, but I was never doing it at the level and the depth that I always wanted to do it. When I was in my early 20s, I thought that I was going to be a professional musician. That's the trajectory that my life was on. And like a lot of people, you just get off track. Why? Life gets in the way. I got married in my early 20s. We had children. I needed to earn a living. And soon enough, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do full time. And I kept saying, I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to get back to it. And I think a lot of us do exactly that. We have a dream we start out with, and life gets in the way. And we just fall into something or other. And then we look back at some point maybe and we say, well, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And why can I ever get back to that? And that's what happened with me. And I kept thinking about it for quite some time. I was playing music, but again, more like an avocation, more like a hobby.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I reached my early 60s and I said, what am I waiting for? Okay. I mean, if I don't do it now, when am I ever going to do it?
That's right.
And I just said, okay, now is the time. And I did everything. I jumped into the deep end of the pool, so to speak. And the nice thing is that it's all worked out really well. In just 5 years, I've got 9 albums, including a Billboard #1.
Wow.
I've got over 4 million video views. I've got over 1 million Spotify streams. I've got over 50,000 Facebook fans. I've played concerts and festivals in a lot of different places around the world. And I've even opened for stars like Edgar Winter and Blues Traveler and a guy named Boney James. So it's been a terrific experience so far. And I felt, among other things, that maybe I could help other people realize their dream, because we all have dreams, or at least we all started out with dreams.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that intention to be able to do that. But so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to ask you, so how actually, let me ask you this. Were there any challenges that you ran into along the way in being able to achieve such success? And by the way, congratulations. I mean, Billboard #1. I mean, and opening for, I've heard of Blues Traveler. I confess I haven't heard of the other, but that I have heard of them. So what, did you run into any challenges along the way?
I don't think your podcast is going to last long enough for me to list all the challenges. Anyone that thinks that life is a straight path is just incorrect. It's 1 step forward, it's 2 steps back, it's 3 steps sideways. I've had some health issues along the way also. 20 years ago, almost to the day, I had an accident on my bicycle. I got hit by a car and wound up breaking my neck. And that was kind of motivation #1 to think about, what do I want to do with the rest of the time that somebody upstairs has given me? So it's things like that that motivated me finally, but it's never a straight path.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say has been the secret, or maybe there were even many secrets to success. I mean, what actually enabled you to be able to achieve this?
Well, I wish I could. I wish I knew the answer to that. But look, I think that everything in life, in a certain sense, comes down to having a plan, an action plan. I'm very big on that. I think if you start off saying, I want to do something, whatever it might be, write a book, get a new job, go somewhere, become something else, you kind of have to say, okay, how am I going to do it?
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. I said, okay, I want to do music full time. I didn't have a specific goal other than to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I'm a little late for that.
Yeah.
um, so I started off and I said, okay, what do I want? What are the baby steps that I want to take? And among other things, I said I needed to restructure my band. I'm not a solo artist. I play within the context of a band. And one of the things I decided to do was surround myself with young, talented musicians because I wanted that youth, that vitality, that exuberance that they could give to the whole thing. So people didn't say, oh, who's that old guy up on the stage and what's he doing? So we've got a very young feel, a very young sound. And that was important because let's face it, the music business is a young person's game.
Yeah.
I don't know any other crazy person like me that started out when they were kind of at the other end of the spectrum saying that this is what I wanted to do. So it's having a plan, in my opinion, that is the focal point of how does one get from where you are to where you might want to be.
Absolutely. Well, that makes sense because you really do have to have an idea of where you're going to go. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. You're going to be wandering in the woods somewhere. So it's good that you had that idea. When was there any particular moment when you realized that, hey, I think I've finally got it. I think this is, I think I've, well, I don't know about made it, but you have, realized that it's like all those baby steps have started to, come to fruition, and they've been able to propel you to where you wanted to go.
I really did have one of those aha moments. Okay. It was in 2018 and we were playing our first festivals overseas. And we got invited to play at a festival in Serbia, called the Nisville Jazz Festival in Nice, Serbia. And here we are on the stage. There's 20,000 people out in the audience. They don't know us at all. Most of them don't speak English, but they loved everything that we did. And we just got this wonderful standing ovation. And people lined up afterwards to get our autograph and the like. And that was my aha moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can imagine that was a tremendous feeling to be able to have that. Now, you mentioned a little bit at the beginning that you are now looking at being able to help others to achieve their dreams. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, look, the fact that I was able to do what I did is nice. It's interesting, but I think where I can really be useful is to kind of point the way for others. I actually came up with the acronym DREAM to try and describe what I had in mind. The D is obviously you have to have a dream, and everybody has a dream, of course. Most of us start off with a dream, when we're teenagers. Very few people say my dream is to become an accountant. We have much bigger dreams than that, whether it's to become, a doctor, an astronaut, a baseball player, a musician. The second thing, the R, in my view, it has to be a realistic dream, depending upon what stage of life you're at. I mean, if I decided that I wanted to be a baseball player in my 60s, a professional baseball player, that wasn't going to work out too well. E is the execute part of the dream, which is what I was talking about before. I think you have to have an action plan. And A is what we were also talking about. It's adjust. There's no plan that goes exactly the way you want it to. You've got to be willing to say, okay, where do I want to make adjustments? The boxer Mike Tyson had a quote that I always loved, where he said, everybody's got a plan in boxing until they get hit in the face. a true saying. So you got to be able to adjust. And M for me is, how do I measure my success? Because every dream is going to have different indicia of when you're successful. And that goes along with, well, how long do I give it? What if I'm not successful? What if I'm not on the right track? Am I going to spend the rest of my life chasing this? Or am I going to be able to say, okay, I took my shot, which to me is the most important thing of all. I think you don't ever want to look back at any point in your life and say, I never even tried.
Yeah.
Okay. If you try, you'll either succeed or maybe you won't succeed, but at least you will have tried. And the satisfaction in that makes a huge difference. So you have to measure, what is it that will make a success for you, depending upon what your dream is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like what you said, that, you do have to adjust, because if anything that 2020 taught us was that a lot of people had to adjust, and just in their normal, even businesses, and having to, learn different ways of being able to serve people. And of course, entrepreneurs that are probably a lot of those individuals listen to the podcast and watch this, watch us on YouTube, have had to pivot and find different ways of being able to serve people, but find different ways to be able to connect with one another. That's why Zoom got to be so popular. Everybody was jumping on Zoom. So it's important to be able to do that. So let me actually ask you about this past year. So how were you able to, or did you need to pivot at all, or were you able to continue on with what you're doing?
No, the whole year was a pivot. You're 100% right. And in addition to that, what I think happened in 2020 is that because of the pandemic, people focused much more on their mortality. And you don't have to be older in order to focus on that, because so many younger people were being affected by this pandemic as well. So I think that was kind of that kind of flowed through the whole year. For musicians, the year was a disaster, okay, because we couldn't play live anymore. We had festival appearances, we had a European tour, all of which were canceled. And then the question becomes, what do you do in lieu of that? And what I did, two things. Number one, we fortunately had just released an album, or just finished an album, almost a week before the pandemic hit. I mean, it was crazy timing. Just happened to finish it. We couldn't play in support of it anywhere, but what I said we could do is we could make videos. So we put out 4 videos of 4 of the songs on the album. And it was a lot of fun. 2 of them were kind of Zoom type videos, with everybody in the group, and everyone's playing and singing and all of that stuff. And a couple of them were much more creative. We did on this album, I like to do covers of iconic songs from the 60s. And I've done that for a Jimi Hendrix song, a Cream song, a Kinks song. This time around, I decided to pick a Beatles song. And I have a video guy that works with us, and he put together kind of our version of Yellow Submarine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Went along with this video. It was very, very cool. Anyway, we did 4 videos, and that was nice. And then what I always do, no matter what is happening, is I write, because I'm the composer for the band. So I started writing all of this music, and it was around June, and I'm saying, okay, things are not going to get any better. What am I going to do at this point? I said, well, let me start to record this stuff. But there was a slight problem. I didn't have a home studio or anything like that. So the question became, well, what do I do? And I literally started to record on this.
On your phone. I love it. Yeah.
I started to record on my phone, and I emailed what I came up with to my engineer, and somehow or other he made it into stuff that you could actually listen to. And then I started to email the pieces to the different musicians, and it came back and we assembled everything. And guess what? At the end of the day, I came up with a new album.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like it.
My first solo album. This is it.
Oh, very good.
I call it Summer of Love 2020. And people have asked me, well, why did you call it Summer of Love? And I said, because in my mind, particularly at that time, I said, the only thing that's going to really get us through this pandemic is love. It's the strongest emotion that we have. Absolutely. So the songs on the album are all about either the pandemic and its effects on me, or it's about the hopefulness that comes out of love. And I'm pleased to say that the album has gotten incredible pre-release reviews, and it's about to come out on the 29th of this month. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, so that's what I did during my summer vacation.
Very good. So, well, and for those of you who might be watching this on the replay, he was talking January 29th, actually. So right. When, oh, sorry, not when, where, where can people get that? So where will they be able to find the album?
The best way to pick up our music is to go to our store. It's called the pgsstore.com, PGS for Project Grand Slam. They can also go to our website, which is projectgrandslam.com. Okay. We're on all the social media sites that you have to be on, so Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that stuff. But I like sending people to our store because it's kind of homey and it's kind of like walking into a retail establishment that's all about us.
Very good. Well, I love
and
that.
For your viewers,
yes,
if they go to the store, I'm going to give away a gift. This is the album I was talking about that was finished just before the pandemic hit. It's called East Side Sessions. And I'm going to give everybody that goes to the store a free digital copy of this album. All they need to do is click on it and then enter the word dream in the code when they leave the store.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's my gift to your audience.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's very generous, and I'm going to check it out. I want to get that myself so I can hear it. That's beautiful. So what plans do you have for 2021 now, since we're starting this year, especially since we're still, unfortunately, dealing with our pandemic? So yeah. Well, I'm in the process of writing a next album, and probably it's going to work the same way that I did the album that I just described. So that's just something I do all the time. And I'm even thinking of starting my own podcast. What do you think about that? I think it's a good idea. Why not? So what would be the subject matter? I have a sneaking suspicion I may know, but right.
I think the most important thing I could do is kind of that dream idea that I could orient people towards, realizing and succeeding at their dream. And at the same time, I can kind of introduce them more to the kind of stuff that I do, the music, and see whether that combination might resonate. What do you think?
I think it would be a good idea. I like it, and I would listen because it's a great combination. And you know what is important about it, and I want people to hear this, is that you're focusing in on what you're passionate about. And I think that's really important. You're passionate about helping people. You're passionate about helping them find their dreams. You're passionate about music. And when you're passionate about something, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to do a podcast, number one, believe me, because I know the first time around when I did a podcast about 4 years ago, I lost my passion for it, and so I quit. And so this time around, I came to it from a better place, actually, number one, and I really do enjoy what I'm doing. I love being able to talk to interesting people like yourself and having them share their wisdom with my audience. And so this is my favorite part of the day when I get to record a podcast.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot then. Will you be a guest on my podcast if I start one?
I would be delighted to do so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah. And it's interesting is that last year I actually wrote a song too, which was like the first time since I was about 7. I
Wow.
think was the last time I wrote a song. So something in the air, I think
Did
last.
you release it or you just did it for
Um,
yourself?
I just did it myself. I don't have any kind of studio either. I just actually sang an a cappella on this podcast. So if you go to Breakdown to Breakthrough, that episode, you will hear it because that's what
Oh,
the
well,
song is as well.
very cool.
Yeah. Um,
Very cool.
so let me see. What else what are some of your other passions? What else do you like to do when you're not making music? Do you have
When I'm
any
not
other?
making music, well, I have two other passions. One is my grandchildren.
Mm.
I've got 4 grandkids. In fact, one of them had his 3rd birthday today, so we got to sing happy birthday to him via Zoom, uh, which
Yeah,
is which is what you can do these
I
days.
know, I know.
And the other thing that I really love to do is I'm pretty active in outside in sports, and tennis in particular.
Mm,
I've played tennis for a long, long time. I've got a lot of friends within that grouping, and so I just enjoy doing that as well.
very good.
I
Well,
used to like to travel when you could travel.
well, yeah, you and me both. I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Exactly.
Possibly, maybe, let's say a prayer by the end of this year would be lovely, especially since I've got a nephew who's going to try again this year to get married. So, so we're
Uh-huh.
hoping we'll be able to attend that wedding in the
Yeah,
summer.
that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think would be important for someone to hear out there who is maybe has had an idea of something they wanted to do, but maybe they, uh, for whatever reason, they haven't pursued it. So, what
I,
could you
I,
offer them?
I think we tend to come up with reasons and excuses why we don't do things.
Mm,
And it's always, well, it's too hard. I don't have the time. I've got so many other things going on, which is why I like to focus on baby steps. You
mm,
don't have to make a gigantic leap, give everything up, um, kind of like I did, but it was calculated at that point.
yeah.
I knew what I had to do. I had to jump in the pool, as I said,
Mhm,
but that's not the way that life typically works. And again, we talk about dreams. Everyone's got different sized dreams.
mm,
Dreams can come in all different types and stripes. It could be as simple as, gee, I haven't read a book in a long time, and I'd love to join a book club. Um, I always wanted to open up a business, okay, a
mm,
store, a retail store to sell this or that. I wanted to start a podcast. There's a million different kinds of dreams. And that's why I say, okay, think about it. What's really, as you said, what's your passion?
mhm.
Okay. You can't really have a dream that doesn't have passion that goes along with it. It's kind of like the essence of a dream.
Yeah.
It's your passion. All right. Now you've got an idea. Is it realistic? Can I do something? What do I want to do? How do I want to go about it? For the most part, all of these things are doable. Okay. It may seem like climbing Mount Everest, but it doesn't have to be that way,
Mm,
particularly if you think in terms of taking those baby steps. Okay, let me get to first base, then let me get from first base to second base. I don't have to hit a home run every time I get up to the plate, so to speak. That's kind of the way that I approach my life. And I think that the more that people say, okay, I don't have to jump completely. Let me take a baby step. Let me put my toe in the water. Let me see how this feels. Let me take that first step. If I want to be a writer, let me write that first chapter. I don't have to write the whole book.
yeah, absolutely.
But the nice thing is when you do any of that, even if you don't complete it, you feel good.
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. And because especially, I mean, one of the analogies I had when I in my 40s, I decided I was going to do a marathon. And I had not run. In fact, I didn't run in high school or anything like that. I danced. I did ballet and tap and
Okay.
jazz and stuff. But but I joined a program to be able to learn how to do it because I wasn't going to just be able to, put a pair of tennis shoes on and go run 26.2 miles the next day. Ain't going to happen. So, but you have to be able to take those baby steps, as you said, and take actions a little bit at a time. And I also believe that as you do that, the universe conspires in your favor, and they'll bring people along to help you, maybe even mentors. Which actually brings me to a good question. Did you have you know going into deciding, it's one thing to decide to become a rock and roll star, but it's another to actually then really be able to make that actually really happen, other than you need talent, number one, and as you say, you got band members together. But did you have like a mentor or anybody who could give you some guidance on how to really pursue a career in music?
Uh, at this stage, the answer is no. But when I was younger, I did have certain mentors that I looked to and that helped to guide me particularly in music.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's helpful. And one of the things that I hope to do is to help people. I don't know if I want to be a mentor because that takes on a big obligation.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'd like to do is to be able to have people get in touch with me if they wish, and I'll talk to them. I'll talk for 15 or 30 minutes and say, all right, tell me what your ideas are. How are you thinking about going forward here? Maybe I can come up with some suggestions based upon my own experience as to what would be a good path to go on. That's where I think I can be helpful.
Well, awesome. Well, if someone wants to be able to take you up on that and contact you, what is the best way for someone to do that, to get in touch with
Well, they can either go onto the website that I've mentioned, projectgrandslam.com, or just send me an email, robert@projectgrandslam.com, and I'll be happy to answer it.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, I will be sure to have all that information in the show notes, and also to make sure that people take advantage of your kind and generous offer to get the free copy of your album, because I think that will be wonderful. Because you know, uh, music is a wonderful thing, and I think it's a wonderful, um, when you're feeling down, to be able to put some music on, it can lift your spirits up. So unless you're got really heavy metal stuff that you got to do, and it's pretty depressing. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's going to be hopefully something that will
I think it's healing.
Okay, good.
It's uplifting and healing.
Oh, good. All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate being able to spend some time and talk with you today.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you out there listening and watching. And I meant to do this. I will next time. I want to start doing shout outs, because we had some awesome reviews on iTunes, and I want to be able to highlight those individuals who've been kind enough to leave me some good comments. So I promise I'll do that the next time. I'll be prepared. But I just know that I do appreciate you, even if I'm not naming you by names. I appreciate you. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.